to It's the Brian Show. Whatever happened to It's the Brian Show? It's the Brian Show. Ooh, that's loud. Brian Show. It's the Brian Show. Time to listen to the It's the Brian Show. It's the Brian Show. Time to listen to it. You're lost out there and you're all alone. Brian's waiting to carry you home. Everywhere you are. Oh, yeah. Shoobity-bop-bop-ow.
Let's go quickly to Baghdad. Trey Yance to stand by live. What do you know? What do you hear on the ground?
All right. Told you I would be a little late. I thought I was going to watch James Holtzhauer play on Jeopardy, but I guess I had my dates wrong because it was somebody else, and there was some real douchebag on there. But that's. But it was just like a normal show, so I don't know what was happening. But welcome to the Brian Show. It's me, your faithful host, Brian. Show 11. This is the 11th show. And I've been doing this for a while now, so I'm proud of myself. I started this show as a way to just kind of talk about whatever, and I do. And I haven't gotten a whole lot of feedback from it. People tell me in person that they listen to it, but you can always email me at thebrianshowlive@gmail.com and find me on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. So take a look. Look for the big ugly yellow logo. That's the sign of quality and authenticity. Yeah, what a week, huh? What a week. We're at war with Iran, and we are somehow the president is going to destroy us, and people are still saying that he's actually doing a good thing, which doesn't make any sense. People on Fox News and your stupid cousins that are Republican, but they are on the dole. But, that's everybody, isn't it? Unless you're the Kennedys. But that is that. So, yeah, it's been quite a week. I'm not going to talk too much about politics because, I spend a lot of time at work, doing what I need to do at work. But I always find time to flip over to CNN.com and then NewYorkTimes.com, and I check Reddit for news. And news breaks fast, but, the same article will be up for 2 or 3 hours before another one takes its place. And that's fast, compared to getting a newspaper once a day or even twice a day. There used to be an evening newspaper, but things move quickly, but they don't move that quickly. So I'm trying to not stare at my phone as much to get, the news or look on Facebook, because I don't think it's healthy. But what are you going to do? It's one of those things that you have to trace it, face it, and erase it, as Stuart Smalley says. You have to recognize that it's something that you want to change, and then you do. I'm probably going to... I'm probably going to edit that part out, but I'm also probably going to not stay an entire hour tonight. I was up late last night. Late for me. I didn't go to bed, or I didn't fall asleep till probably 11:30, and I'm normally in. After this show, this is I get right in bed and then fall right asleep after I read for a little while, and brush my teethies and brush my facies, wash my facies. Sometimes I take a shower, depending on how stinky I am. It just depends. I mean, it's a rich tapestry of my rituals, my nighttime rituals. It tells the tale. But we were up late last night. We went over to a friend's house to watch Schitt's Creek, the season premiere, and we watched it live on TV, which was a trip because although I did just watch Jeopardy live, but I have a little antenna that I jerry rig, and it looks really ugly. I'll have to take it down. And I only put it up for Jeopardy. But they had cable and a real big, nice TV. And most importantly, the Pop TV, which I didn't... there was an actual channel. I just thought it existed out there, and it was just something that was part of Schitt's Creek at the beginning of it on Netflix. They're just one of the production companies or something. And we were looking at it, seeing what all they had, and it was mostly movies. Date Night with Steve Carell and Tina Fey was on there. What else? I can't remember. There was One Day at a Time. Apparently, One Day at a Time, the show from the 70s, has got like a Hispanic remake, or maybe it was always Hispanic. I don't know. I don't know much about that show, but I know it's a remake, and they were pushing that. So, except for Schitt's Creek, there's not a whole lot that looks that interesting, but it was nice to watch something live, appointment television, as it's called in the biz, or what I've heard it's called in the biz. You make a appointment to watch it, and there were commercials, and that was wild. Because I'm used to not watching commercials or fast forwarding through commercials. So, when I do go to sleep, I like to sleep on a Casper mattress. No, I'm just kidding. I have tens of listeners. I don't think Casper Mattress has any interest in me selling anything on their behalf. Probably need a. Wonder how. Don't you have to have a portfolio or something? I think I looked into it. Just not because I was going to advertise, but I think that there's some threshold you have to meet for listeners. So, if anybody has any ideas on how to get more listeners, maybe the content is just bad. Could be. Maybe I'm not funny. Could be. Maybe I don't have a focus or a gimmick as far as like a podcast that deals with serial killers, or we try the best burgers in your town or something like that. I just talk about me and do what I do. So, but I have to look at it from a perspective of almost therapy, where I can just kind of decompress in the middle of the week and talk about whatever is on my mind, and I usually feel better after I do it. But it would be nice to get some feedback. So if you are listening and you like it, drop me a line. You can also subscribe on the YouTube thing, and you can chat live when it's actually live, because that happened for the first couple shows, and then it kind of dropped off. So I understand people are busy, and you always listen to it on the podcast. But so I think it was last week, I was talking about Alexa and Siri, and how, and I got all fumbled up on what the point I was trying to make, because I was mistaking Alexa for Siri. So here's my thing with Siri, just briefly, is I ask. I apologize that it was a shitty 3-minute segment. It might have even been 2 minutes, but it wasn't very good, so I apologize for that. I should have been more prepared. But whenever you ask Siri something, instead of, because to me, like with Alexa, you want an auditory response. You say, Alexa, when's George Washington's birthday? It's July 4th, 1776, or whatever it is. I know that's not really it. Or, hey, Siri, play that song by Quiet Riot. Now playing Metal Health by Quiet Riot. But if you ask her, who was George Washington married to? Often, if it's more than something that I guess is top level on Google, she says, "Here's what I found," and I don't want to have to like the reason I'm using the voice function on Siri is so I can pay attention to whatever else I'm doing. And I'm normally driving or somewhere where I can't easily look at my phone or don't want to read a Wikipedia entry. So get it together, Apple. If I crash, my blood is going to be on Apple's head, and whoever I take out with me. So I got another question for you. It's a quick one. Is it Pirates of the Caribbean or Pirates of the Carabiner? Or is it Carabiner? I mean, they have to carry things on their belt loops, right? Yeah, that was dumb. But, there's only so much. Like I said, it's a Brian show. I can talk about whatever I want. And these are the things that just pop into my head. Mostly word-based humor is what I get a kick out of. And I wish my vocabulary was larger, but also sometimes I think of, I know like the word circumambulate is to walk around, basically walk around in a circle or walk around something, circumambulate. And oftentimes, not oftentimes, but I don't use that word that often, but why not use the phrase, I was walking around, but every once in a while I can't think of that phrase. I was walking around. I can't think of the word. Yeah, he tends to use, I won't just go out and say, he tends to use, big $5 words that when a dollar word would work. I think they used to be dollar words were like the biggest words, and then inflation happened, and because like a 10-cent word is just a basic word, and that dollar word's a really fancy word. But I think they're up to $5 now for a real fancy word. So that's inflation for you. But does anybody else do that where you can't think of the simple answer? You say, yeah, he's pretty sesquipedalian, and you're like, what? Why would you say that? Why don't you just say he uses big words? So I wish my vocabulary was bigger. I wish I could I read a lot, but I have to read things a few times for them to sink in, and I have so much information flying at me every day that I don't remember everything, and I don't have a great memory anyway. But I do wish my vocabulary was bigger so I can remember, so I can feel like more conversant in the English language, because the English language is awesome, and there's so many words, and just language in general. Like there's a word for just about everything, even a feeling, even an emotion, a series of actions. Just look at German or Gaelic, where people make fun of these really long words for towns, but they're basically directions, and they really describe what is where a place is. But yeah, so anyway, so this is another thing I was thinking of, is as I was listening to WTF, which I listen to if it's interesting, or somebody I'm interested in. there was Brad Pitt and Leo DiCaprio were interviewed on WTF with Mark Maron, and I like them fine. I think they're great actors, and they're as far as movie stars go, they're movie stars, and I'm not a humongous like Hollywood movie guy. I like movies, but those guys, you can't go to the grocery store without seeing them plastered, or you can't look on a website without some reference to them. Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, all those guys. But anyway, so Mark Maron interviewed Leo and Brad Pitt, and I listened to it, but I don't know why I listened to it. I thought Leo DiCaprio was he came across as pretty smart and more intelligent than I thought he would be, being a guy that grew up doing movies. And Brad Pitt was kind of the dopey guy I thought he would be. Charming, he would be, the funny guy at the party. And Leo would, be trying to get you to sign a petition to save the earth with, supermodels next to him. But I don't really care that much about what they have to say. I'm not that interested in what they do. But I listen to them anyway. And I think there's a trend in podcasts today where every big celebrity has a podcast and they have all their famous friends on there, like Conan O'Brien. I didn't even listen to Conan O'Brien's podcast. Conan O'Brien, Mark Maron was kind of the godfather of it. Who else? Everybody has if you just scroll through it, Joe Rogan's been doing it a long time, but let's see. If you look at the most popular podcasts, let's see, the Watchmen podcast, In Bed with Nick, what's his name? Nick Offerman, that's right. Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally. And then they have Lisa Kudrow and Will Forte and Jenna Fisher and I'm sure they're interesting people, but why do I need to hear, Will Forte be interviewed about his life? I'm sure it's an interesting life, but I wish there was a little, here's the thing. I don't wish there was, I'm glad it's there because if I want to listen to it, I can. I'm not saying that I wish there was more mystery because I can let the mystery lie. I don't have to listen to the Will Forte interview. I like him. I liked Last Man on Earth. That was great. I think he's funny. I watched MacGruber. I thought that was a pretty good movie. But do I need to hear an in-depth interview about him with the husband and wife duo of Megan Mullally or Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally? No. And there's, let's see, sibling revelry with Kate Hudson and Oliver Hudson. Okay, let's see what they talk about. Taye Diggs. Let's see, Lisa and Laura Ling. So they must do brother and sister. Let's see. New and popular. Yeah, Conan O'Brien. The Bill Simmons podcast. I don't know who that is. Joe Rogan. So, but anyway, I guess my main thrust of this whole thing is that there's only so much celebrity to go around, and it's after a while it seems less special because you almost expect why hasn't Brad Pitt been on 5 podcasts? But really, we haven't heard Jon Stewart on one, or I haven't heard. That would be cool. That I would listen to that. But he got Maron got Barack Obama, and that was awesome. I listened to that, but I wanted to hear that one. I really did because that one was really interesting, and Barack Obama's was the president, and he's super smart and really charming and funny. And Brad Pitt and Leo were charming and funny, but again, they're actors. What more? They give everything they have on the screen. I don't care who they're married to or not married to. But so I don't really know where I'm going with that, except it's a trend, and it is what it is, and you just either are with it or again it, and for it or again it, and that's that. Also, something I've been noticing, and you can let me know, is why are there so many? I'm gonna start an Instagram account, and I'm telling you now, this is my Instagram account idea, and you cannot steal it. Let me take a sip of water while you contemplate what it is that I'm going to say. What is it with tissue boxes in the back of cars? Is that a universal thing where people just take a tissue box and stick it in the upper part of their back seat? Why is that? You see it all the time. Sometimes you'll see stuffed animals, or you'll see hats, but why tissue boxes? So I need to get to the bottom of that. And like I said, I'm probably gonna end a little early tonight because I'm tired. So, but I'm gonna get to everything I want to get to. I got a couple more things I want to get to. The first is I was listening another podcast. I was listening to Gilbert Gottfried podcast, who has interesting guests because they're people that you wouldn't you have never heard of if you're not of a certain age, like a baby boomer, or B, if I have heard of them, it's something where I am interested to hear, what they have to say as far as their time in Hollywood or their time being musical, like Rupert Holmes. They have Rupert Holmes all the time, the guy that did the Pina Colada song. And he's really funny, and I like that song. I like Rupert Holmes, and I had that album on record, or that record on vinyl, and it got ruined. That's another story, how this shit got ruined. But let's see here. Jackie Martling and Billy West. I mean, Billy West is funny as hell. He's great in Futurama, and Jackie Martling from the Howard Stern Show. And then, he goes back to guys from like F Troop and who knows, like these people that Neil Sedaka, let's see, Gavin MacLeod from Love Boat. I mean, there's all these people that you wouldn't normally associate with new technology that you're like, oh, I bet they have something cool to say. They don't always, but so maybe I just totally reversed myself. But anyway, he had Kenny Loggins on, and Kenny Loggins sings Danny's song, and you know that song, even if you don't know by the title. It goes, even though I ain't got money, I'm so in love with you. But the lyrics, if you listen to the lyrics by themselves, they're kind of ominous. What if they were sung by Satan? People smile and tell me I'm the lucky one, and we've just begun. Think I'm gonna have a son. He will be like she and me, and free as a dove. conceived in love. Sun is gonna shine above. And even though we ain't got money, I'm so in love with you, honey. And everything will bring a chain of love. And in the morning when I rise, brings a tear of joy to my eyes and tell me everything is going to be all right. Seems as though a month ago I was beta chai, never got high. Oh, was a sorry guy. And now I smile and face the girl that shares my name, Ya. Now I'm through with the game. This boy will never be the same. And even though we ain't got money, I'm so in love with you, honey. And everything will bring a chain of love. And in the morning when I rise, bring a tear of joy to my eyes. Tell me, is everything gonna be all right? So it doesn't track 100%, but still, the first few words, first few lines. Think I'm gonna have a son. Conceived in love. Sun is gonna shine. I guess it's all in the way you look at it. Maybe I was looking at it this morning. Maybe I was just in a weird mood this morning. So for the final bit this evening, I wanted to talk a little bit about some philosophy I've been thinking about, and free will versus determinism. And it's basically the idea that that you either have free will and you can make your own decisions, or things are determined by causes outside your control that don't necessarily mean that you can predict the future, but all of your decisions are as a product of previous things that have happened starting from the Big Bang. So it's pretty wild, and you can get really in depth in it. So I was just going to talk a little bit about that.
I won't tell her, don't worry.
So the free will versus determinism debate revolves around the extent to which our behavior is the result of forces over which we have no control, or whether people are able to decide for themselves whether to act or behave in a certain way.
It's okay, baby.
So the determinist approach proposes that all behavior has a cause and is thus predictable. So free will is an illusion, and our behavior is governed by internal, external forces over which we have no control.
Promise me you never tell your mom.
External environmental determinism sees the sees the cause of behavior as being outside the individual, such as parental influence, the media, or school. Approaches which adopt this position include behaviorism, social learning theory. For example, Bandura showed that children became aggressive through observation and imitation of their violent parents.
Such a beautiful fucking car.
Internal determinism. The other main supporters of determinism are those who adopt a biological perspective. However, for them, it is internal, not external, forces that are the determining factor.
So beautiful.
According to sociobiology, evolution governs the behavior of a species and genetic inheritance of each individual within it. For example, Bowlby states that a child has an innate, i.e. inborn need to attach to one main attachment figure, i.e. monotropy. And personality traits like extroversion or neuroticism and the behavior associated with them are triggered by neurological and hormonal processes within the body.
I just wanted you to notice me. I guess it takes sucking your dick.
Let's see here. So personality traits like extroversion or neuroticism and the behavior associated with them are triggered by neurological and hormonal processes within the body. So there's no need for the concept of an autonomous human being. So ultimately, this view sees us as no more than biological machines, and even consciousness itself is interpreted as a level of arousal in the nervous system. Freud also viewed behavior as being controlled from inside the individual in the form of unconscious motivation or childhood events known as psychic determinism.
I want to get it down.
And there are different levels of determinism. There's hard determinism. Hard determinism sees free will as an illusion and believes that every event and action has a cause. Behaviorists are strong believers in hard determinism. Their most forthright and articulate spokesman has been B.F. Skinner. So concepts like free will and motivation are dismissed as illusions that disguise the real cause of human behavior. Sorry, take a drink of water. In Skinner's scheme of things, the person who commits a crime has no real choice. She's propelled in this direction by environmental circumstances and a personal history, which makes breaking the law natural and inevitable. For the law-abiding, an accumulation of reinforcers has the opposite effect. Having been rewarded for following rules in the past, the individual does so in the future. There's no moral evaluation or even mental calculations involved. All behavior is under stimulus control. There's also soft determinism. And soft determinism represents a middle ground. People do have a choice, but that choice is constrained by external or internal factors. For example, being poor doesn't make you steal, but it may make you more likely to take that route through desperation. So soft determinism suggests that some behaviors are more constrained than others, and that there's an element of free will in all behavior. But there is a problem with determinism, and it's that it is inconsistent with society's ideas of responsibility and self-control, and that form the basis of our moral and legal obligations. An additional limitation concerns the facts that psychologists cannot predict a person's behavior with 100% accuracy due to the complex interactions of variables which can influence behavior. So now we get to free will. And free will is the idea that we are able to have some choice in how we act, and assumes that we are free to choose our behavior. In other words, we are self-determined. For example, people can make a free choice as to whether to commit a crime or not, unless they're a child or insane. This does not mean that behavior is random, but we are free from the causal influences of past events. According to free will, a person is responsible for their own actions. And one of the main assumptions of the humanistic approach is that humans have free will. Not all behavior is determined. And personal agency is the humanistic term for the exercise of free will. Personal agency refers to the choices that we make in life, the paths we go down, and their consequences. For humanistic psychologists such as Maslow and Rogers, freedom is not only possible but also necessary if we are to become fully functional human beings. Both see self-actualization as a unique human need in a form of motivation, setting us apart from all other species. So there is thus a line to be drawn between the natural and the social sciences. To take a simple example, when two chemicals react, there is no sense in imagining that they could behave in any other way than the way they do. However, when two people come together, they could agree, fall out, come to a compromise, start a fight, and so on. The permutations are endless, and in order to understand the behavior, we would need to understand what each party to the relationship chooses to do. So, ranged against the deterministic psychologies of those who believe that what is inevitable are therefore those who believe that human beings have the ability to control their own destinies. However, there is also an intermediate position that goes back to the psychoanalytic psychology of Sigmund Freud. So, at first, Freud seemed to be a supporter of determinism in that he argued that our actions and our thoughts are controlled by the unconscious. However, the very goal of therapy was to help the patient overcome that force. Indeed, without the belief that people can change, therapy itself makes no sense. This insight has been taken up by several neo-Freudians. One of the most influential has been Erich Fromm. In his book Fear of Freedom, he argues that all of us have the potential to control our own lives, but that many of us are too afraid to do so. As a result, we give up our freedom and allow our lives to be governed by circumstance, other people, political ideology, or irrational feelings. However, determinism is not inevitable, and in the very choice, we all have to do good or evil. Let me rephrase that. In the very choice, we all have to do good or evil. Fromm sees the essence of human freedom. But you have to look at a critical evaluation. Psychologists who take the view free will suggest that determinism removes freedom. Free will removes freedom and dignity and devalues human behavior. By creating general laws of behavior, deterministic psychology underestimates the uniqueness of human beings and their freedom to choose their own destiny. So, the deterministic approach also has important implications for psychology as a science. Scientists are interested in discovering laws which can then be used to predict events. And mental illnesses appear to undermine the concept of free will. For example, individuals with OCD lose control of their thoughts and actions, and people with depression lose control over their emotions. Clearly, a pure deterministic or free will approach does not seem appropriate when studying human behavior. Most psychologists use the concept of free will to express the idea that behavior is not a passive reaction to forces, but that individuals actively respond to internal and external forces. The term soft determinism is often used to describe this position, whereby people do have a choice, but their behavior is always subject to some form of biological or environmental pressure. I tend to be, I don't know if I'm a hard determinist or a soft determinist. I guess it just depends on my mood and how I'm feeling, how much sleep I've gotten, if I've exercised that day. All kinds of factors that go into whether I'm a hard determinist or soft determinist. So I thought that was interesting that determinism, you can really go down a rabbit hole with it, and have some fun with it. 40 minutes. I think I'm good. Like I said, I'm cutting out early tonight. I'm tired. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and let me know what you think, and we will pick up next week. I think I got some good stuff I'm going to put together for next week, so stay tuned for that, and get ready. So until next week, stay good to each other. Whatever Bill and Ted says, stay rad. Whatever. Have a good night.